psychologist, he's recognized amongst the leading keynote and motivational speakers, creative thinkers, and problem solvers in the Caribbean. Dr. Semaj combines ancient wisdom with contemporary levity, what we call worldviews, to bring fresh insight to old human problems. As a transformation specialist, he offers two options: above or beyond. Above where you are presently, or beyond your wildest dreams. And of course, Dr. Semaj is a frequent facilitator for strategic planning retreats, organizational restructuring, cultural and work balance alignment, leadership training, and corporate coaching. And he's joining me here on the Bridge 99 FM on One Jamaica to talk with us in his capacity as a psychologist on the culture of masculinity, men and mental health, and of course, I'm sure we're going to talk about the women in these relationships, especially with regard to the story that many of us have been, again, quarreling about. People are very angry about it. I see a lot of angry motifs and emoticons on Facebook and elsewhere regarding the story that was published earlier this week of the young boy who was the 4-year-old child, almost a baby, who was so severely beaten because it was felt that he was eating his food too slowly by a stepfather who also beat up his mother. But we just get it clear. This is the story that we are working with, for eating too slowly, and the mother get beat up too. One of the things that my mother told me, and I firmly believe, is not the first day the bucket, not one day the bucket go well, the bottom drop out, you see? So the bucket there did not go well long time. So when we get the final fatal kind of connection that results in a child dying, the mother getting her beat up apparently regularly, police involved and all of that, I'm sure if we do a 360 degree and ask the neighbors and all of those people what was happening, we are here that his regular liquor drop all over the place. Some things have to be put, we have to work against it, and so we're going to talk with Dr. Semaj. Is Dr. Semaj with us? Is he on the phone? Yes, let me bring Dr. Semaj in. Hello, Dr. Leahcim Semaj. How are you doing, Leahcim?
I'm good. Very good. I'm very good, thank you.
Very good. You're very good. And I'm looking at you at the same time, because the technology good, you see, I love it. So he's in the Zoom. I can see him, and I can see him on the phone and in an office surrounded by books and all kinds of accolades. Leahcim, your office looks nice.
You know, one of the things, my daughter, Isis.
Yes, I know.
Your colleague, and in the preface, of her dissertation, just like growing up in a household surrounded by books and 18-inch speakers, she had no choice but to marry those two things together for her own academic, professional movement. So that's my world. That's my world.
And it's a great word, Dr. Semaj. Excellent word. I grew up in a house where my mother read. We didn't have bookshelves. We had boxes and stacks of books and newspapers. 2 newspapers came into the house every day. Poor family, but she believed in the value of reading.
Well, guess
Very
what?
Important.
Mine goes a little further back than that, because the formative years were spent living in one room. So we didn't have the space for no library. But from I was about 4, my mother took me to the Tom Redcam Junior Library every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. And come back for me at 5 o'clock. I spend the entire Saturday.
Library stories, yes.
It shaped me.
I read out library. Yes, ma'am, we could swap library stories. I read out the entire Lindsay Dollier School Library and the entire Lindsay Branch Library. And they sent me as a child, at the time I was about 10, that I must go to the parish library in Spanish Town, because I read out the entire child and adult section.
No, exactly.
They threw me out.
It's a powerful resource, and to expose children to that early, man, it sets the tone.
Yes.
Other point I'd just like to make with the commentary you made a while ago about that incident, I feel just as you do about it, but I always remind myself, newspaper report is not evidence. Yeah. Evidence is something that can be tested, and also subjected to review and counter argument and so on. So too many times, yes, we have a newspaper report, but we have to tell ourselves that is not the evidence. That's just a journalist view. There at least a couple more sides. So even yes, I share your feelings. I share what you feel, but we just have to remind, especially in this era of social media, where somebody can just jump on it now and take it all kind of twist and twin. It is not evidence.
But remember, though, Dr. Semaj, we are working in this particular instance with this story in an environment where one, the child was beaten to the point where he died, and we are told that the child seemed to have died from the licks. But
Okay.
also in an environment where we have, and I've gotten reports, for example, from colleagues, friends with whom I went to UA graduate school, of seeing similar incidences with a 2-year-old, but this time the child didn't die. Luckily, comes to the court. And
Yeah.
also, from my own community of Lindsay, we had a report of an 8-year-old girl whose mother passed several years ago, living with her stepmother and her father, and then turning up again, suffering from physical abuse and succumbing to apparently the results of that. So we have these things that are happening on the ground. We're getting partial reports. Then you get the talk back as well. One of the things I read very seriously as a researcher, I will go on the Instagram of the newspapers, and the stories are there, and also on Facebook, and there are thousands of responses, and I will read through the 1,000 responses, and inside of them you will find people who are from the community, who know the family, who are family members, will give you all kinds of back talk that flesh out a bigger picture for you. It's something I practice very deliberately because of what you just said, that
Yeah.
the newspaper report not giving you everything. And you'll read some things, and sometimes I know some of these people, and I speak with them behind the scenes. And you'll hear some things that, honestly, I have to protect sometimes my mental health from it because I can't do much except maybe send something, try to get involved, and we can't do everything. That's why we're on the program. We're going to talk to a wider audience and hope it has an impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very important. Once you raise the issue, I mean, the producer mentioned to me about the culture of masculinity, and in light of all the
Yes.
issues that are happening and so on. But when you go to church and my text this morning is taken from Romans 57, and I just want to share one sentence that's give it what frames my consciousness, my discourse on this issue of masculinity and male behavior. The September 28, 1996 issue of The Economist magazine. Fairly prominent magazine, would you say?
Definitely, very prominent.
Okay, the cover issue, the magazine was devoted to one issue. And they made a prediction back in September 28, 1996, that the Western world's biggest social and economic problem would be males, young,
Mm.
uneducated, unmarried,
Mm.
unemployed, and unemployable.
I was going to add the able because behind uneducated and unemployed, the unemployable is very, very challenging. And that Leahcim Semaj, Dr. Leahcim Semaj, I believe is at the root of a lot of the issues that we are facing today in
Absolutely.
Jamaica.
So, it's,
Frustration.
it's, it's, it's easy for us sometimes to discuss symptoms and we don't look at causality and we don't look at some of the structural impediments, how even within our own society,
Yes,
as we stand now, two of the issues that I like to remind people of.
yes.
We have something, well, I don't know if in my era there was common entrance. You took common entrance, what you did?
A common entrance.
All right, I took
Common
common,
entrance.
and then after that we have GSAT, and now we have
I know we
PEP.
have something named PEP.
Right.
Mm.
But guess what? You see, at that age, between 10 and 12, roughly, girls are approximately 2 years more mature than boys.
In all aspects,
Well, in
physically,
most aspects, yeah,
psychologically. Yeah.
them taller than we.
They are physically taller, many of them, and then definitely physically, the hormone levels are changing for them faster, and
Yeah,
also they are usually more advanced because of the way that we are socialized.
and their verbal ability and their intellectual
Yes,
competence and so on. But that
yes,
is the age where we now separate our children in Jamaica as to who go high school and who go with school. when the girls have a
You know, I'm
2 year.
talking to you, and I'm almost about to burst out in tears because you're right, Dr. Leahcim Semaj, that we have to look at the causality, what we lay down in an early stage for the lives of our children, boys and girls, and how it impacts on who they become in the future, men and women,
Let me
and
give you
especially for boys and girls from the working classes and the
one more
poor
piece.
sectors of the society.
We have
Yes,
7 all-boy high schools in Jamaica. 7. And we have
seven.
7. And we have 14 all-girl high schools in Jamaica. And the
Mm.
co-ed schools have a ratio of probably between 70 and 65 girls making up the dominant number. So our secondary school system is structured in a very interesting way.
And also, Dr. Semaj, remember that in the classroom setting, we also have a higher percentage of female teachers, the persons who are tasked in a lot of ways at all levels of the educational sector, in the face-to-face interaction and guidance of
Absolutely. And by the way,
the
that is not,
culture is feminized.
it didn't happen by accident. A decision was made.
I know.
Men used to dominate education in the colonial switch to the post-colonial era, and decisions were made to cut that out because they were using education as a stepping stone to challenge the ruling class.
And one of my colleagues, former colleagues at University of the West Indies, did write a thesis that looked at male marginalization through the educational structure.
Professor
And
Errol
what
Miller's
it
book.
about Professor Miller's Men at Risk.
Yeah, there's another book he has where he looks at the school system, how it was structurally deliberately. And let's go further, Donna. But I can call it Donna because I know you from long time, you know.
But we are friends and we go down. Leahcim and Donna. Yes. And you know, just for the listeners, remind them, of course, you are Dr. Leahcim Semaj, but everybody knows you, Leahcim.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if you look across the geography of Jamaica and you look at the dispersion of the high schools, there's an interesting correlation as to where we had large plantations in terms of banana and cane and how few high schools are in those areas. Hmm? We look at Portland. How many high schools there are Portland? Eh? We look at St. Mary.
What you're speaking to, you know what you're speaking to, Leahcim, the colonial structuring of the society to provide higher levels of education for those who are going to be the leaders of the society, who are positioned in more of these metropolitan centers, and lesser levels of education for those who are supposed to be the hands and feet, carry the burdens of the society on their backs and not have enough opportunities to elevate them. We could sit here. Let me say, we could sit here and talk about because when we talk about that, then we are trying to flesh out the root of the symptoms, the root cause of the tree that grew to produce the fruit that we are now reaping. Because we sow the wind, and as Marcus Garvey says, we are now reaping the whirlwind. That's what is happening to us.
No, absolutely. So I want to just make sure that I want to ground because sometimes when I speak, especially I'm glad you started with that issue about the show Man Talk, where we really try to look at some issues from the male perspective in a non-pejorative manner, because what has happened over the last 20, 30 years in Jamaica, we have taken so many of our cues from the metropole, and our issue of masculinity was just shoved under the carpet. And one of the critical elements, Donna, is that, you see, male energy is a potent energy. It is what discovered new lands. It is the kind of risk that bring new invention. But if you do not structure and transmute and curb that energy, it also becomes destructive. It's powerful energy.
But Dr. Semaj, and I'm told the Zoomers are not hearing you. I'm not sure it's because if Dr. Semaj turns on his Zoom mic, will it cause a feedback loop? Could you turn on your Zoom mic for me, Leahcim? Let's see if it causes a feedback loop. Because our Zoomers are not hearing you through the board, and we'd love for them to hear you. We have tried to bring them into the discussion, but they're not hearing you.
Well,
let's hear what. Yes.
Is there any?
Are we getting a feedback? No, we're not getting any.
Okay,
Are we getting a feedback loop? Okay, so we can. Zoomers, are you hearing Dr. Semaj now through the Zoom microphone? because he's in the Zoom. And I see a yes coming up. Okay, so
Okay,
we'll
that's
work with
great,
that.
sir.
So yes, Dr. Semaj, one of the things that happened in my life, because I was raised in a very working class poor family in St. Catherine, and so my mother, a black woman from rural St. Catherine, poor woman, we were raised in a different way, and I'm a big woman, to deal with men. The man is the king in the house, and you give him the best part of the chicken and that kind of thing, and you look out for the men, nurture men, and it's a very patriarchal way, but also a way of encouraging our men to be the best version of themselves. One of the things I did then, coming out of my own experiences, of course, my father being an absentee father, is to do a PhD that looks at gender and popular culture, but it's masculinities in Jamaica and looking at it through the lens of dancehall. I had a long journey to gender discussions and the masculinity, but working at working class masculinities in Jamaica, poor men from the. Let me tell you, I shed a lot of tears along writing that dissertation. It was a very painful journey because I learned a lot about how men are positioned, some of them constrained, some of them encouraged to see themselves in ways that are reductive, that are harmful, and that doesn't guarantee them the best future going forward. The society gives you these images, and says, do certain things with your life as a man, but the things that would empower many of our men, these are not given to them, and they find out about it pretty late when they are in cages from which they can't escape. That is a challenge I saw in the works. And the point you make about us taking our cues from a metropolitan society like the US of A, like Canada, like England, is that we are looking at societies that have been through what we are going through now and have worked out all kinds of mechanisms. We have to work out our own mechanisms here in Jamaica that fit our society, fit where we are today, and provide opportunities and options for the next level, 25. We have to look now at what we want 25 years later. And I don't think we have done that.
Not at all. You see, but then oftentimes, Donna, the past is not necessarily gone if it is still impacting on the present, because the tentacles are so long. And let me just give you one more piece of the history. Post-colonial Jamaica had laws that forbid black people from going into business. And you remember that. And so the typical thing, a man said, boy, Mavis, I want to start a little business and try a thing, And Mavis just said, no, Joe, you can't do that, That's not legal. Because them sketch you, them going to arrest you. So oftentimes a mother or a wife or a girlfriend would have to spend the time saying, listen, no. You have a nice little government job, just keep yourself in your place. Do your little government work and go on. So that a lot of these impediments were built in. And to add to what you said a while about our patriarchy, but we balance patriarchy with matrifocal. Our families were always matrifocal in that it's built around the mother's side of people. Think about who you spend Christmas with, who you spend holiday with, your mother's people. So it's something we brought from Africa with us, matrifocal, so that you get that balance. Yes, you want to have your father's name, but is your mother set the culture and the tone to get the balancing component? So oftentimes when we borrow something from the metropoles, without transposing them or making the adjustment. So, for example, if we look at the hundreds of options that we have developed for female to help them with their personal, social, intellectual development compared to how we just dash with the boy them. What are the options?
And Leahcim, Dr. Semaj, that, and I'm looking at comments coming in the Zoom. I totally respect and admire Dr. Leahcim Semaj. He's brilliant, down to earth, driven, essential, and real. Another comment: girls are socialized to be responsible. They have chores. Boys are carefree and are allowed to run and roam up and down. And remember, I think Professor Shevans, tie the heifer, loose the bull. That notion of how we are socializing our young children.
But hold on.
And expecting different outcomes when they are adults.
Let me comment on that, because guess what? The average home in Jamaica, and this is still valid today, you have two children. A boy, the boy is 6 and the girl is 8. All right? You call the girl inside to set the table and to do all the kind of things and so on. And the boy can sit and play longer. Your girl is
Mm-hmm.
16, and if sun go down before she come home, she's in trouble. Your boy is four.
You beat her.
The
You
boy
beat
is
her.
the boy is 14. Anywhere him want go, him can go. But let me go a little further. Your girl is 6. You give her a little pan, and you teach her how to wash her underwear.
Yeah, man.
Your son is 26, and most mothers still washing the son underpants.
I'm giving that laugh. They call it the big old dirty laugh. Well, different families are because we have to change the paradigm. You meet men and they don't know. Oh, this to me people washing machine everywhere. Everybody in all the garrison washing machine put on pallet and roll out. So everybody going and who can I go and sit on pallet and then cover it with and you everybody going to learn to wash them clothes. Because you know when they go America, when they run away to America, men suddenly get a transformation in the, they
All of a
suddenly realize
sudden.
that they can cook all at me. I have never seen that culture shift because you know why, Leahcim? They have to do it. Here in Jamaica, we do not encourage that.
So what I'm
Many
saying,
times it is
yeah,
forced upon
mothers
our boys.
underdevelop their boys.
I know that. I agree
Mothers,
with you.
they are
I
boys now who
100%
have graduated from university. Boy, I can't find a job I really like, Them 35 and living at home still. Mother giving
not
them
my
money.
house.
Mother giving them money for buy credit for them phone every day. Them can bring in
Yes.
them girlfriend and can spend a week and can hello.
Mothers and grandmothers and aunties
I make
help to
sure I
put that,
tell my boys
and then you know
not
what,
in my
Dr. Semaj?
cabinet. Not in my cabinet.
Not in your house. You know what happens there, Kim? That when women are looking husbands, we have to go now and fix these men who are children forever. They are living with their mothers, or their mothers are basically responsible for them. All when them are 40 and 50, you are trying to fix them. It is men are supposed to be given an opportunity to be men, regardless of where they are. And the point you also made is that women like myself and many women, young women looking on, even the movies, go on any movie, the women are the superstars. Everything is coined, showing us how to be powerful women. We have been given opportunities from about in the 80s coming forward. They have been making opportunities available and showing us role models. I have so many female role models who came out of the works from the working classes and showed me how to be who I am. Oh, you don't see it all around you. Black women in Jamaica, not just to be the leader of the house in the matrifocal setting now, but to come and be amongst the women that the ILO tells us in 2017 Jamaica has the biggest percentage of managers
Female
in the
managers.
world
Yes.
who are female. And this is not an accident. I mean, I was teaching at UCC on a Sunday, Leahcim, Sunday classes. I used to get up and teach from 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday all the way until in the evening. Women were coming from Montego Bay.
To come to
Women
class.
were working, driving from Mobile. This is before we have toll road.
Yes.
Right? We're talking about 2005 and 4. And driving from Montego Bay, they have a full-time job, they have picnic, they have husband. Spend the whole day at town at a class, and then go back to Mobile the same day because they have to go to work in the morning because they wanted an education. These are the women who, I don't know how they find the time. One of the girls tell me that she cooked the Sunday dinner partially from Saturday night.
Yes.
And then she finished it early Sunday morning and like before day and drive how many hours it used to take us, 4 hours from Mobile to come at town and sit down in front of me in a class, young PhD in my hand, because I had to give some of myself back. Sunday classes. These women, I know them, I see a lot of them, are senior managers, middle managers in institutions in Jamaica. When I look in the classrooms, there were 80%, 85% of those students were female, were women, and 10% to 15 were men. Why do you think we where we are today? These are some of the reasons.
We have underdeveloped our male in this society. My brethren, good brethren, Tony Rebel, me and him catch up all the time around him song, and he talk about teach your children. In the song, it says, me no, all he says about the boy in the song, me no want my son turn no gunman. But what he says about the daughter, my daughter could be the prime minister. My daughter could be the next doctor. That is, when I was on radio,
Positive reinforcement, you know.
when I was
Positive
on,
reinforcement
yeah,
in one instance.
I was on radio a
Yes.
long time ago, and I did a show one time. What do we tell our sons? And everybody called me, tell me, well, here what I tell my daughter. Go to school and study hard and pass the exam so the man can't take liberty with you. No, no. What you tell your son?
Not a
Nobody had
don't be no
anything to
gunman.
share. Don't me no want my son turn no gunman. So that we have done a very poor job. Very poor job. When I say we, because I exempt myself because I work with my girls and my boys. And you know the shortest cut I offer to parents? Raise your son the same way you raise your daughter.
They
Give
tell you that. Well, some people tell you when you make that statement, Leahcim, and I see a comment in the Zoom. Mothers take care of their sons' children. We let our sons. We what we tell our sons to multiply. We tell our sons to multiply, and it's
I'm
true.
bringing the
We tell them to multiply
yeah.
and breed out, and breed up everybody. And I'm using the word. And I mean, Lafane's eyes are opening. The word breed. We tell them to multiply and give us grandchildren. We don't tell them that when you're going out there to be polygamous and having multiple children with different women, that there is a responsibility. Well, there are going to be several responsibilities on your back, and you are probably not going to be fully equipped to deal with it. And we are not providing a lot of our sons with the opportunities. But Leahcim, some of us out there in the trenches, you know, working hard to try and sort this thing out. But I agree with you that we have a lot of work to do. I think we have to go to a break and come back because I think Lafayette has been waving at me.
FM.
And you're back with us here, of course, hearing that voice. Vicky, your voice sounds good, you know. We have a lot of men with excellent voices. Good morning. I'm reading stuff. I'm reading stuff on the okay. Somebody's coming into the Zoom and telling me that they were on a meeting. So we have people joining the Zoom who are in meetings. People are coming in. And I think somebody's telling me that they are trying to get me, and they're not getting me on WhatsApp. Not sure what's happening there because I think my phone is supposed to be on WhatsApp. I'm not seeing it coming up. But keep on sending information. Send it to the WhatsApp for the program 876-551-5782, and Lafayette will let me have it. Of course, we're talking with Dr. Leahcim Semaj, and let me say some of these discussions, you know, because Dr. Semaj has so much information in his head, years and years of work in the trenches, and let me say this: Leahcim is a father whom we respect, an excellent father to his children, sons and daughters, a man who doesn't only he lives what he speaks. So this is not lip service, because the lip service thing kind of rough in Jamaica. People chat and talk, and they don't really live what they speak. They don't practice what they preach, but them sound good when them come on TV and radio, big and serious, and on social media, perfect people. But we see the results of years, decades of a neglect, particularly of our young men. And I'd like to say, Leahcim, there's a class component to this as well, especially some of the more visible activities. We have men from all the sectors who are abusive to women, who do many things, but you find a lot more of the significant frustration and the significant challenges with how you deal with your children, how you deal with the women around you, not just physical abuse, emotionally, the psychological challenges, the financial abuse as well. Remember, financial abuse is also a part of it, that we see a lot of working class issues there, the lack of education, the lack of opportunities or grasping the opportunities, or a lot of these things coming together. And you did see, and one of my colleagues has been taken to task as well on the campus, Dr. Herbert Gill, for suggesting that women have a role to play in how our men are, falling through the cracks, showing behaviors that are harmful, that they were in the main, in these matrifocal structures that we love to big up, they were socialized at their mother's knee at the outset.
Absolutely. And we can even add a piece more to this, Donna. One of the things that it dawned on me in a very interesting way. In 1979, when I was assistant professor at Cornell, and I noticed that, I finished my PhD in 78, and I did a postdoctorate from 78 to 79. So 79 was when you just try to struggle now, forget your life started, because for the last 18 years, it's just school, right? So you don't have nothing. Yeah. Now, all the other assistant professors By the way, I was the only black person, the first black person in the history
As
of
we
Cornell in that,
were foreign, and you were
Yeah.
definitely you
But
would
hear
be.
this now. All the other assistant professors were driving new cars and were living in their own homes. So I said, but
Mm.
how come Una can't do that? Una just finished a PhD like me too. Well, Daddy bought me a car for my PhD, and Mommy paid the deposit on the house. Now,
Yes,
switch back to our culture. Our children barely finish high school, and we expect them to start nine way or start mind the other children. The pressures
mind the
we
whole
the family.
mind the whole
So the first one
family.
that finished the high school, get a little job, no man, so you can take care of your brother and your sister. So we have to call out our own culture. And
And
some,
remember, in the Leahcim, in that text, that people like to parrot the title of because they don't read the book. My Mother Who Fathered Me by Edith Clark. Is it? Yes. That people like to parrot the title. Only need to go read the book. I should have taken my copy. I read it 3 times because it's really speaking about the way that the matrifocality, what happens with it. And one of the things that happens with it is the same thing you just mentioned. Mothers become a kind of stand-in wife for them sons, especially in the working classes. And mothers expect, and the family expects, and the community expects that mothers will be the primary recipient of the resources that the son going to make in life. So try children and wives and baby mothers on a stay to the next level. So you're going to always, it's almost like a black widow spider. You just go and eat the son's
Donna,
life
I don't know if you know it.
forever.
I had a sound on the road for about 10 years in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
called
Yes.
Judgment, right? And
Yes.
you know, when somebody says something and draw a sound clash, you must can draw the
Yes.
counteraction at the same time. You see, as you said, my mother who fathered me, I had it in front
Counter
of
it.
me, and especially something I extracted for that very reason. All the people who talking about the title never really read the book,
Never,
because
never. From I hear them start to talk. Never.
in the book, here's how it worked now. All the people, this book was published in 1957, folks, right?
Thank you.
58% of the children live with both parents. 13% live with mother and stepfather. 4% live with father and stepmother. Only 19% with mother alone. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a catchy title. Yeah, man, let's call it My Mother Who Fathered Me. What was happening then was way better than what's happening to us now. Only 19% live with mothers only. Now it's a dominant form of situation where our children are in. And listen,
Yes.
mothers can do wonderful things, but Donna only can father. You can be
But I agree
great
with you,
mothers.
Leahcim. I agree with you.
Fathering is something different. My youngest son, I mean, I've learned so much from him. I remember once we were on 2 occasions. You could see how this thing worked. We were somewhere, and I was with him. He was about say 5 or so, and he stumbled and he fell. And I
Yes.
went and picked him. I said, "Jump up, boy, jump up." And we just kept going. And he held my hand and he said, "Daddy, I'm glad that it is you are here with me and not mommy, because mama would embarrass me."
Should I ball?
I started kiss me up, and just as basic as that. The fact that daddy respond to your son falling different than how mommy would. He noticed it. Another
But
time,
I agree. But you see, Leahcim, this is important. I mean, we are really supposed to be talking about the issue and sort of bridging it to the discussion about the 4-year-old boy, and how that fatal interaction with a stepfather, physical abuse. What we are really doing is kind of still we are to ground the discussion would take us a whole year because we have so many variables to flesh out. But I want us before we go, because we are out of time. I
okay,
want us to
sure.
go now and connect the discussion in a lot of ways because the people are talking about mental health issues. They're talking about having stricter laws. We're going to have to talk about that in another discussion. But I think that really, in terms of what can we do? What are some of the suggestions that you would have, or a key suggestion that you would have for us now to tackle what is really a crisis of masculinity?
All right. There's a basic psychology. Frustration leads to anxiety, and that
Yeah.
anxiety leads to aggression. All right? Aggression can be verbal, it can be emotion, it can be physical. We are living in very frustrated times. The anxiety coming out of the job losses and all the restrictions. Look, Donna, especially people of marginal economic means, the street corner is your living room. The community bar is your country club. So when we have lockdown from 6 o'clock for months and months and months, what I'm saying about anyway, Marga,
It pop.
it pop. They also say that pressure, bust, pipe.
Boss pipe.
So a lot of relationships are under serious pressure with all the frustration. And it could be just some little thing that trigger it, and it comes out in domestic related violence, whether against women or against children. So people are under pressure, and we have to start reaching out for each other. Don't be ashamed or afraid to intervene. You see something in your friendship group and with your family and people around you, say, Johnny, you can't do that. Mavis, no, you can't say that. So that's the first level of defense. We have to start reaching out to people when we're seeing signs say getting maga. We're seeing signs say going pop. Because most of these people will not be able to refer them to no psychologist or no psychiatrist or so on and thing. We see
Or a
them not
counselor. So.
we see them not coping. Reach out. If you see something, say something. We also have to start raising this other issue about corporal punishment. We have to abolish it. Corporal punishment
Prime
teaches.
Minister, and the Prime Minister mentioned that yesterday that he hinted at it, but I
No,
want Prime Minister
he's
to
been
come
talking
and
about.
put
He's
that
been
in right
talking for
word.
a while. He's been talking for a
Yes.
while. Listen,
Put
corporal
that thing
punishment.
together.
When you beat a child, you're teaching the child at least 3 or 4 things. By the way, punishment don't change behavior. Punishment suppresses behavior in the presence of the punishing agent. So what you do, you learn not to get caught next time. All right. So folks, that's how psychology works. But when you beat the child, what are you teaching the child? If somebody disobey you, you can hit them. If somebody disappoints you, you can hit them. If you're bigger than somebody, you can hit them. Huh? So now it translates up and up and up, and you get into a relationship. If the woman disobey you, you hit her.
Beat her.
But here's the other side of it now. I was subjected to some serious corporal punishment. My mother was a terrorist as far as I love her to death. But guess what? Coming out of the experience, my pledge was I would never ever put my hand on my child because I knew what it felt like. Now, I'm talking about the physical hurt, I know the trauma that you go through. When I passed common entrance, I got a pullover watch. You read them watch, eh? I got a pullover watch
That
from
was
my auntie.
big watch them time.
But mother tell me you can only wear the watch if you're going to church. You can't carry it to school. But if I carry the watch, I show my brethren them my gold watch, huh? I had an accident at school and I fell down Central Branch, parking in my parking lot. Playing ground is paved. Me drop and bust my forehead. My shirt full of blood. They took me straight down to Kingston Public Hospital and called my mother. Used to work at down Princess Street at the factory. And my mother was on her way up. My greatest fear was that my mother going to know that I have the watch in my pocket and I carry it to school.
Oh Lord.
Not that my shirt full of blood and my face full of blood and all of that, The terror I experienced, my mother going to beat me. Right? So
Well,
that
Leahcim, that's a part of a lot of us grew up with that. I mean, I used to hear my mother's voice in absentia. I'm in town stealing where to go to Champs and I know I'm not supposed to. And the only way to steal them, I had to leave Champs and go home because I heard the woman's voice was in my head. I could see her face and I knew I should not. Our mothers were presences, like they were a presence.
so we have yes.
Of them.
We have a
Every
responsibility
time.
in terms of some cultural adjustment issues when it comes to gender, when it comes to relationships and child rearing, because if we do not consciously intervene, the intervention will come from a deficit side. So, for example, now, the most, should I say, destructive elements of popular culture is what is giving people the most resonance.
Yes, yes, that's true. And people respond to it positively. And I'm seeing comments in the Zoom. The beating comes from the idea that children are our property. We own our children. They are our property. And then somebody says, John, no, doctor, I can relate. That's why even teachers are allowed to beat them. So people, there are a lot, and these are all Jamaicans in the Zoom and people responding on social media. So people are responding to the comment about the corporal punishment and really, speaking to us in a lot of ways about how they themselves have seen it or responded to it. Dr. Semaj, Leahcim, we're really out of time. I said they're waving their hands. We have another feature coming up. We're really going to have you back to drill down more into the discussion about masculinity because there are a lot of things that I would love to flesh out and talk about, especially in the way that we see a lot of our men
No,
becoming predatory.
my
Because of the
sister,
way that
once you
society
raise
has
that issue,
failed them.
I am a LP, but not the 45. Me album. No, no. Me an
Several
album,
albums, you
me
mean?
a box set. The box set will come with 15 album and so on. I mean that.
Yes,
Box
yes,
set,
are you that?
not 45, all right? So whenever you're ready, me ready.
Definitely, we talk some more about it. We're gonna have to have you back because this issue is far-reaching, wide-reaching, and something that everybody is quite excited about it. I'm seeing comments coming up. I'm changing. To switch around to later. Women think there is a greater need to protect their sons from society like gangs and crime, etc. The structures are deliberately ignored, and so there are a lot of yes. And of course, we are going to have to leave it there. Dr. Leahcim Semaj, thank you so much. We could talk for the rest of the afternoon and run over all into Nikki Z program at 1, the crossover, but we're not going to do that. We'll have you back another day to talk with you. And of course, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us here on One Jamaica on the Bridge 99 FM. And we'll talk some more soon. Have a great day. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much. And of course, speaking there with Dr. Leahcim Semaj, psychologist, consultant, recognized among keynote speakers, and of course, many, many, many accolades above or beyond his company. He's a transformation specialist and offers a lot of options and opportunities, strategic planning retreats, among others. We're going to have him back because we can't finish the discussion.